The night was wild and unforgiving. Rain pounded against the windows of a small, weathered house, while thunder rolled through the sky like an angry drum. Inside, Daniel, a single father, sat with his little daughter, trying to keep her calm with stories and gentle reassurances. Their home was modest, the kind where every corner spoke of love and sacrifice, but it was warm, safe, and filled with the laughter of a child who trusted her father completely. Suddenly, a sharp, frantic knock broke through the storm. Daniel hesitated for a moment, surprised. No one ever came this way at such an hour, especially not in weather like this. His daughter clutched his arm, eyes wide with curiosity and a trace of fear. Gathering his courage, Daniel went to the door and pulled it open. There, standing in the rain, was a sight he never expected. His boss, Ms. Reynolds, the powerful CEO who lived a life of wealth and elegance, was drenched from head to toe. Her designer coat clung to her shoulders, her hair was plastered to her face, and in her trembling arms she held her young son, whose eyes brimmed with fear as thunder roared above them. The confident, untouchable woman Daniel knew from the office looked utterly fragile, her usual commanding presence replaced by desperation. For a moment, both worlds collided, the simplicity of Daniel's life and the grandeur of hers, brought together by a storm that showed no mercy. And without thinking twice, Daniel knew he had to let them in. Daniel quickly ushered them inside, shutting the door against the howling wind and sheets of rain. His daughter rushed to fetch a towel, her small hands eager to help, while Daniel guided Ms. Reynolds to the couch. The warmth of the room contrasted sharply with their drenched clothes, and soon he was offering blankets and a steaming bowl of simple homemade soup. Ms. Reynolds sat quietly, trying to steady her breathing. She had never imagined herself in such a place, this humble home with its faded curtains and old furniture, but tonight, it felt like a refuge. Her son clung to her at first, shivering, until Daniel's daughter brought him a toy and, with innocent laughter, coaxed him into playing. Slowly, his tears faded into giggles, and soon the children were sitting on the floor, their bond forming effortlessly, as if the storm outside didn't exist. Watching them, Ms. Reynolds felt a strange mix of emotions. She was used to polished boardrooms, grand dinners, and people who bowed to her status. But here, in Daniel's modest living room, surrounded by simplicity and kindness, she saw a different kind of wealth, one built on love, sacrifice, and presence. Daniel poured her a cup of tea, his voice calm, his manner gentle. "You're safe here," he said softly, and for the first time in years, Ms. Reynolds realized how long it had been since someone had spoken to her not as a CEO, but as a person, a mother, and someone in need of shelter. As the storm raged louder, the lights flickered before finally going out, leaving the room lit only by the soft glow of candles Daniel had quickly lit. The children, now curled up together under a blanket, whispered and giggled, their innocence shielding them from the fear outside. Daniel and Ms. Reynolds sat across from one another, the silence between them broken only by the crackle of rain against the windows. For a while, neither spoke, but the storm seemed to demand honesty, and soon Ms. Reynolds sighed heavily. "I don't know how you do it," she admitted, her voice trembling. "Balancing everything, raising a child alone, working long hours. I struggle even with all my resources." Her eyes lowered, the weight of her confession making her appear more human than Daniel had ever seen her. Daniel leaned back, his gaze soft but steady. "It's not easy," he said. "But she's my world. Every sacrifice, every long night, it's worth it when I see her smile. Money can't buy that." His words carried no bitterness, just quiet truth. Ms. Reynolds felt a sting in her chest, realizing how often she traded her son's smiles for meetings and deadlines. The storm outside seemed to echo the storm within her, stirring questions she had long ignored. For the first time in years, she wasn't the CEO in control, she was simply a mother, sitting in a stranger's home, learning that strength wasn't always about power, but about love and presence. As the night stretched on, the children's laughter softened into sleepy whispers. Ms. Reynolds rose to check on her son, only to pause at the doorway when she overheard his gentle voice. He was speaking to Daniel's daughter, his words unguarded and innocent. "You're lucky," he whispered. "Your dad is always here with you. My mom, she's always busy. I miss her, even when she's home." The little girl hugged him, promising, "But your mom loves you. She just works a lot." Ms. Reynolds felt her chest tighten, tears stinging her eyes. Each word from her son cut deeper than the storm's thunder. She had built her empire to give him the best life, luxury, security, a future without worry. Yet here he was, envying a child who had nothing material, only the constant presence of a father who never left her side. She turned back toward the dimly lit living room, her hands trembling. Daniel was quietly tidying the table, unaware of what she had just heard. For the first time, Ms. Reynolds realized the hollowness in her success. She had mistaken providing for being present. All the cars, the mansions, the accolades, none could fill the void her son felt. Her heart cracked open in that moment, not from weakness, but from truth. The storm outside no longer frightened her, it was the storm inside that she could no longer ignore. And she knew something in her life had to change. By dawn, the storm had passed, leaving the air crisp and the sky painted with soft shades of gold and blue. Daniel's daughter stirred awake first, rubbing her sleepy eyes before running to the window, marveling at the rainbow stretching across the horizon. Her delight filled the small home with light, as if the night's fear had never existed. Ms. Reynolds stood quietly by the door, her son resting peacefully against her shoulder. She looked around the room, at the modest furniture, the warmth of a simple breakfast Daniel was preparing, the tender way his daughter tugged at his sleeve, and felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. Turning to him, her voice wavered. "Thank you, Daniel. You didn't just give us shelter, you reminded me of what truly matters." Daniel gave a humble smile, brushing off her words, but the sincerity in her gaze lingered. She left that morning with a heart far heavier than her soaked clothes from the night before. Days later, at the office, whispers rippled through the staff when Ms. Reynolds made an unexpected announcement. Instead of reprimanding Daniel for his absence, she promoted him, granting flexible hours so he could better care for his daughter. But the biggest change wasn't in Daniel's life, it was in hers. She began leaving the office early, picking up her son from school, and laughing more than she had in years. The story closed not with thunder or rain, but with two families walking together under the sun, proof that sometimes storms don't destroy, they heal, they awaken, and they bring hearts closer than ever before.